So, Joel, welcome back. We are going to be diving into another story here in Nigeria. And you and I have talked quite a bit about Nigeria and what is happening there to so many Christians. But this particular story is about a mother of five who is in prison for what exactly? Tell us.
She's in prison for blasphemy, essentially. Your viewers may remember back in May, there was a young Christian university student named Deborah who was murdered on her university campus after she was accused of blasphemy. Well, obviously, this was big news in Nigeria, and lots of people were sharing their opinions about it. And actually, a Muslim person in Ghana, a neighboring country, made a video saying this murder was terrible. Deborah should never have been murdered. And this Nigerian Christian woman named Rhoda shared that video, and then she herself was accused of blasphemy.
For sharing the video.
For sharing the video, saying that Deborah should not have been murdered. So you can see.
I have to pause you for a minute because it's so crazy to me. And I know some people who are watching this or listening to this, they might not actually understand blasphemy or what those charges are. Obviously, we're all familiar with the term, but when somebody in Nigeria is arrested for blasphemy, what exactly in general are they being accused of?
The terrifying thing is that it could be almost anything, right? Like, according to the law, if you insult another person's religion, or if you insult one of the major religions of Nigeria, you can be held criminally liable for that. But what does that actually mean to insult a religion?
And is it true? Is it a he said, she said even, right?
Exactly.
Right.
It's almost impossible to disprove, especially if it took place in a conversation or in a WhatsApp group or something like this. So it's a weapon that can really be used against anyone. And as such, it usually gets used against either Christians or against Muslims who don't go along with extremist ideology.
So Rhoda was allegedly arrested for simply sharing a video on WhatsApp, I believe, of this person, a Muslim, saying that the death in May was wrong, which we all know was horrific. We talked about this, and we'll have a link in the show notes for those who don't know about that first story that we're talking about, so you can learn a little bit more about it. But she's a mother of five now, and she has been in jail since around when? When did they arrest her?
May 20. So it's going to be 6 months on Wednesday, November 16.
So the family, from what I understand, was initially hesitant to speak out. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean, they're a Christian family in a Muslim majority area of the country. And the threat, when someone is accused of blasphemy, a giant target gets put on their head, right? And the threat is not only from the police, the threat is also from extremists or people in the area who might want to take matters into their own hands. So for a while, they said, let's just stay quiet. Let's hope this resolves itself. Let's hope that they just let her go. But the months have passed, and they've now decided that we need to speak out and we need to try to advocate for our wife and our mother.
Yeah, and she's being held now. Again, in America, the context is you're accused of something, and I know no system is perfect, but this is how it works 99% of the time. You're accused of something, you get a trial, and a judge hears it, a jury hears it, and that's how it rolls. What is happening in her case?
What's happening in her case is that her case keeps getting kicked from judge to judge, essentially, right? So they held her for the maximum amount of time that was allowed under the law. Then they applied for bail. Then they sent the bail application to a judge who was on vacation. And then when the judge didn't show up for the hearing, it got sent to another judge who was also on vacation. So it's just like this endless string of failed court hearings. And so no one has to take responsibility for the fact that she's in jail in the end. And so we can see that this is a case that no one really wants to find her innocent of, because that's dangerous. It's dangerous to find a Christian innocent.
What happens? What could happen? Like, let's say they released her today and said this is ridiculous, you never should have been arrested, or they find her innocent. What would potentially happen?
There could be riots. There were riots when she was first arrested. When she was first arrested, most of the Christian neighborhood in her city was burned down by people who were trying to kill her. So the arrest was kind of a way to stop the riot from continuing, to calm the rioters down. So if she were to be released again, it's really hard to know what would happen.
So you're in a situation like this, you're repeatedly victimized, right? You're accused of something that shouldn't really be a crime to begin with, right? then you're imprisoned for it to stop potentially. I mean, A, you're imprisoned for it maybe because that's how the system works, but or to stop the chaos from unfolding when people react. It's sort of mob rule. Then you might be kept in prison to ward off more mob rule and never given justice. That is remarkable and horrific. And you mentioned that when this first happened, when the news got out, it happened pretty quickly too. People came, they burned the village, they attacked other Christians, right? Because of this. And again, as far as we know, she's accused of simply sharing a video in which somebody decreed a murder.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. How has this affected, obviously, outside of the horror of seeing a wife and a mother be detained and all of the other things that happen, how else has this impacted the family?
Well, she was one of the two primary breadwinners for the family, so it's been an enormous financial strain. You know, they have 5 children. This is an enormous financial loss. Now she's in prison. They have to travel to visit her. They have to pay for her legal fees, and they have to keep the family running on half of the income they had before. But I really think it's the terror of knowing that a target is on your family's back, and a target is potentially on the back of all the Christians in your city. I think this has been a very well-placed signal to the Christians of the city not to step out of line, not to protest when other Christians are murdered, to stay in their place and to not speak out for themselves. And I think it's been very effective, unfortunately.
Now, they made a decision to get help after being quiet initially, hoping this would resolve itself, as you said. How is Christian Solidarity International helping come alongside the family?
We're providing financial support to the family, so trying to cover their basic needs, trying to make up for the income that they've lost because their wife and their mother is in prison, trying to help them with legal costs. And we're committed to standing in solidarity with that family for as long as they need it, for as long as she is in prison. And we're also trying to get the word out about this case because Nigeria is a country that the United States government has said has no problems with religious freedom. Nigeria was on the list of countries that are problematic for religious freedom for the United States for a year. And then a year ago this week, they took it off the list. So this is a on its face case of a person's religious freedom being violated by the state. It's undeniably a grievous violation of human rights. And we want to campaign on this, and we need to make the world aware that Nigeria is not a place where religious freedom is safe.
Yeah, and the countries of particular concern list from the State Department, as you said, it's been a year. We're expecting a new list, and there's been a lot of pressure from your organization and lots of others for the Biden administration to place Nigeria back on that list. Were we ever given, and you and I have talked a lot about this in the past, but were we ever given a reason why, once the Trump administration put Nigeria on, why it was then removed by the Biden administration?
No, no, we weren't. It speaks to how little attention Nigeria gets in the media and even in the church, I must say, that they could take the biggest country in Africa by population off of the list and know that there's not going to be a reaction. There's not going to be a response that they have to deal with. I think it's an indictment of the government that they don't feel accountable, but it's also an indictment of us, of Christians who are involved in politics and of organizations that are supposed to hold the government accountable. So we need to redouble our efforts, and we need to keep demanding an explanation.
Especially watching, as Christians, watching other believers suffer, part of the body around the world. This is something that we need to speak out on. I think that Deborah's murder, earlier this year, that really was a wake-up call for a lot of people. I think it was something that got this in headlines that people were thinking about and talking about. And, every time you and I sit down to do one of these videos, it gets a lot of traction. People want to hear about these things. They don't know that they're happening. And that's a big part of the battle. So where can people go? Because you guys are obviously talking about this a lot. You have stories that you've written up. You're keeping people up to date. Where can they go to get more information and to find ways to help out?
Yeah, I would go to our website in the United States. That's www.csi-usa.org. You could also go to our special website for Nigeria. That's nigeria-report.org. And there you'll see stories about Rhoda. We have actually a timer on the website that shows how many days she's been in jail. So every day it updates as long as she's in there. And we're doing our best to keep people informed about her case and about some other cases that we follow in the country.
Well, I so appreciate your time, and we'll be praying for Rhoda and for all of you and the wonderful work you do.
Thank you so much, Billy.